On radio, online and mobile. You're with SBS Radio.
This is SBS World News Radio. I'm Greg Dyatt.
And I'm Darren Mara. Coming up.
All I want to do is have a vote in the Parliament. They can vote against it. They can abstain. We're not asking them to change their vote.
Liberal MP Warren Entsch says it's in the Liberal Party's best interests to deal with the same-sex marriage issue once and for all.
Also tonight, the WA government offers Betty Cuthbert's family a state funeral.
She was a wonderful Australian, a golden girl from a golden era of Australian sport, and I think it's appropriate considering her record that we offer a state funeral.
And Venezuelan authorities say they've suppressed a military rebellion at an army base in Valencia.
All those stories and more coming up in the next 30 minutes.
Good evening. With the news at 6 o'clock, I'm Darren Mara. The Liberal Party has decided to have a second attempt at getting parliamentary approval for its same-sex marriage plebiscite. If the plebiscite bill fails, Australian voters would still get a say on the issue via a postal ballot. Federal Liberal Party parliamentarians are meeting in Canberra this afternoon with the issue of gay marriage foremost on the agenda. Speaking before the meeting, Liberal MP Warren Entsch, a gay marriage supporter, was pushing his colleagues to accept a vote in Parliament.
All I want to do is have a vote in the Parliament. They can vote against it. They can abstain. We're not asking them to change their vote, but just give us an opportunity to have a vote, and we cannot allow this to continue down the track the way it is, because it is very, very distracting, and it will keep coming up until the matter gets voted on in the Parliament.
Addressing the first Labor caucus meeting since the winter break, opposition leader Bill Shorten blamed a failure of leadership from Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull for the same-sex marriage debate being dragged out.
There was a new contender in the satire stakes today when I read Tony Abbott talking about politicians should never break promises. But there is only one reason why this failure to deal with marriage equality has dragged on as long as it has. It is because of the complete failure of leadership and weakness of the Prime Minister of Australia to deal with this issue.
The Human Rights Law Centre says the Australian government's cruel treatment of an asylum seeker on Manus Island led to the man's death. The man, believed to be an Iranian, reportedly took his own life before he was due to move from detention into the Papua New Guinean community. Daniel Webb from the Human Rights Law Centre says the man's death can be directly attributed to his treatment by the Australian government.
This man deserved decency and respect. This man deserved a chance to build a life in freedom and in safety. But instead our government chose cruelty. Instead our government chose to detain him for 4 years on a remote island. So this man lost his freedom, and then he lost his hope, and now he's lost his life. It is an absolute tragedy.
Australia's Immigration Department says it's aware of the man's death, which is being investigated by PNG authorities. Australian sprinting legend Betty Cuthbert is being remembered as an inspiration and a champion on and off the track. The four-time Olympic gold medalist died overnight after a long battle with multiple sclerosis. She was 79. Australian world champion marathon runner Rob De Castella has told Sky News it's an immense loss.
It's a very sad day for all Australians. I think she is a real icon for our country. Such an incredible athlete and in so many ways such a wonderful role model, and I think exemplified everything that sportsmanship is about.
The Australian Olympic team says it's saddened by the loss, while Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull says she was an inspiration. Opposition leader Bill Shorten says she'll forever be a golden girl. A state funeral for Les Murray will be held at 11 a.m. on Monday at St Mary's Cathedral in Sydney. The voice of Australian football died aged 71 after a long illness. He began working at SBS in 1980 as a subtitler and worked his way up the ranks to become one of Australia's most recognised and loved sporting identities, known as Mr Football. SBS will broadcast the funeral from 10:50 until 12:15. Overseas, in South Korean President Moon Jae-in and his US counterpart Donald Trump have agreed to cooperate and apply maximum pressure on North Korea in a telephone call as Chinese media warned of the limits of new United Nations sanctions. The UN Security Council unanimously imposed new sanctions on North Korea on Saturday that could slash its $3.8 billion annual export revenue by a third. The US drafted resolution bans North Korean exports of coal, iron ore, lead ore and seafood, following Pyongyang's 2 intercontinental ballistic missile tests in July. It also prohibits countries from increasing the current numbers of North Korean labourers working abroad, bans new joint ventures with North Korea, and any new investment in current joint ventures. We'll now look at tomorrow's weather. Perth, rain and 19 degrees. Adelaide, partly cloudy, 16. Melbourne, late showers and 15. Hobart, early shower or 13 degrees. Canberra, partly cloudy, 12. Wollongong, sunny and 18, Sydney, sunny and 19. Newcastle, also sunny, 19. Brisbane, sunny, 23. Cairns, mostly sunny, 28. And Darwin, sunny and 34. Greg, more on those stories coming up on SBS World News at 6:30.